Welcome back to Mile High Hoops. Today we're talking about the Memphis Grizzlies, and the AI generated images today are all themed around Assassin's Creed, except for one, and we'll have to wait until we get there. Please like and subscribe. Comment down below what type of theme you want for the next one, and we'll get right into it. So we'll start with Ja Morant. Um, we all kind of know who Ja Morant is at this point. I mean, he's just crazy athletic. He can shoot the ball decently. We'll get into that more, but uh, he rebounds well. He puts up high assist numbers. He gets a couple steals a game, and he just plays at such a crazy high pace the whole time. He's just constantly attacking defenses. Probably the best comparisons that we've had to Russell Westbrook or Derrick Rose in the last couple years. Um, I think recency bias hitting me here a little bit, but for their playoff run, I mean, he kind of was a struggle. Um, I mean, he still put up crazy good numbers, and he shot the three at a decent percentage at 34%. But the issue that I have is that it's just not consistent enough for defenses to really respect him. I remember them playing against the Warriors, and they just sagged almost completely off of him, which when your point guard is getting sagged off like that, it kind of makes it really hard to run any sort of offense, especially when their center out there is Steven Adams, who can't shoot threes. So then at that point, you've got Desmond Bane out there who can shoot threes at a really high rate, Jaren Jackson Jr., who also nails threes, and then Dylan Brooks, who's a struggle bus of his own. So their offense gets a little bogged down. I will say Ja plays taller than he is, though. So on offense, I mean, he's able to get into the paint and just out jump pretty much everybody towards the rim and finish or kick it out to one of the two shooters on the court. So I think the best thing for him to work on is just continue working on the outside shot. Maybe lifting a little bit more weights because defensively, I mean, it was kind of interesting to see how Steph Curry at this point was able to bully him a little bit. But I think he just needs to get a little bit stronger. He's only 22 at this point, so he's got a long ways to go, and he's already at a great spot. Now to Jaren Jackson Jr., I will start this by saying I love Jaren Jackson Jr.'s game. I think he, in this new NBA, is such an exciting young power forward. He blocks shots and he shoots threes really well. It's just the big hole in his game is that his 2 point percentage is really bad. At least in the playoffs, I mean, he shot 38% from the 2 point range, like inside the arc, which is pretty unacceptable for your 6'10, 6'11, 7 footer, whatever height he is. Um, and so, like, if he wants to be an all-star level player, he really needs to either improve that or become so good at blocking shots and defense and threes that can carry him up to that level. At the current place that he's at, I mean, he's probably pretty close to being an all-star. But I mean, still looking at playoff numbers here, he only scored 15 points a game for Memphis in the 12 games he played, but he did block 2.5 shots, which is giving you some back. But like he's supposed to be second fiddle here to Ja Morant, and if he wants to be able to do that, he's going to need to score, I would say, around 20 points to be like useful enough for this team to get to that next level. But I think as far as it goes for him, I mean, he doesn't need to be a post scorer or anything. He just needs to get really good at when he's picking and popping, hit the threes like he does, and then he needs to be rolling in some of those situations or slipping them and giving the ball like one good pound and either just dunking it or finding a way to finish or being able to kick it out to a shooter. I think that's kind of the path for him to hit that next level for him. And onto Desmond Bane. So Desmond Bane is probably my favorite player on this team. He shoots the lights out. He could bench a train. I bet he's just so yoked. But I mean, he's just this thick, like 6'4" guard that strokes the lights out of the ball and can play pretty dang good defense. Um, I like the way that he comes off screens just ready to shoot the ball. That's a skill that's kind of reserved to just very few people at this point for some reason. I don't know why more players don't come into the league with that sort of like skill set going on. But for the playoffs this last season, he shot 48.9% from three at 7 a game and got like 3.8 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, block. Didn't turn the ball over that much at like 1.3. I think for Desmond Bane, just improving at getting to the rim, and then even if his 3-point volume went up, I think that would be good. I mean, he's shooting the ball so well. Might as well add a couple to the game, just see if the percentages start to drop. And I think he could be a really good focal point as like that secondary scorer if Jaren Jackson can't get to that point. But I mean, he's just an incredible player, perfect fit next to Ja, and I couldn't expect them to let him go in any sort of way. He's just too well rounded. And now the guy that breaks the theme. But Steven Adams here, or Aquaman, as we all know him as. Um, I like Steven Adams, and I think he fits this starting center role pretty decently. I mean, he's just an absolute rebounding machine. And other than that, like, he doesn't do too many things particularly well. I mean, he sets really good screens. I mean, he's a massive unit, and he usually lays an absolute brick wall on someone. And when he rolls, I mean, he catches it and can finish kind of over each shoulder, or he does actually a pretty good job of passing as well. Um, the thing that I think about the most still is that I don't see why the Grizzlies traded Valanciunas for Steven Adams. Like Valanciunas on this team right now would be just so much better for them, just as a fit, and then also Valanciunas is just a better player. But regardless, having that extra center out there that can just shoot and like stretch the floor would definitely mitigate some of the like weaknesses of Ja Morant and Dylan Brooks especially. But Steven Adams is fine. I don't expect him to be their long-term center though. Now I wasn't able to get a picture of Dylan Brooks through the app. It just kept popping up with chicks. But regardless, so Dylan Brooks, he is the guy that I look at on this team that I think needs to go, like sooner rather than later. I mean, he hustles on defense. He is constantly in attack mode on offense, and he's kind of their like goon on this team. It's just Dylan Brooks, I feel like he's like Marcus Smart. He can either be amazing for you or absolutely fire sell the game. You know, like he will do some of these crazy layups where it's like, dude, you're not that guy. And he'll put up ridiculous threes that like he'll make a couple of them, but then the other majority of them just go like clanging off the backboard or something. It just I was watching the Warriors Grizzlies series, and every time Dylan Brooks had the ball, I was begging him to shoot, and most of the time he would, and it would usually result in the Warriors going the other way. And it just it's hard to imagine this guy on your team when almost every time he has the ball, you could just chalk it up as a turnover, like, and whether or not it ends up in the box score as a turnover, half the time he's shooting it, you could just chalk it up to a turnover. It's it's really rough. I think they need to move him and get rid of him, let him be someone else's problem, and try to fill in the holes with other guys. I don't have a lot of takes for the rest of the guys on this roster, I'm going to be honest. I mean, Brandon Clark is a good bench big that comes in off the bench and can hit a lot of floaters. Defensively, he's okay. Tyus Jones, their backup point guard, actually, I think is really good for them. I mean, he just comes in, he runs the offense at a, I would say almost like a starter level. He shoots the ball well. He has a great assist to turnover ratio. Um, and I think he's just solid enough that he doesn't hurt the team when he's on the court. And that's kind of what I feel like I look for in like a bench guy is can he keep us afloat, make our offense like run so then we're getting opportunities, and then on defense he's not a negative. And that's I think the most you can ask out of some bench guys unless you have like Jordan Clarkson or something. And then they did trade DeAnthony Melton for Danny Green. Kind of interesting. I mean, Danny Green did tear his ACL, so I don't think he's playing this next season. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then Xavier Tillman, just kind of a big body. He does actually finish around the rim really well, and he puts up pretty good rebound numbers. Uh, I feel like he's kind of a new age Montrezl Harrell a little bit, where he's kind of just this big bowling ball guy that kind of just cleans up the glass and finishes it and doesn't really give you a whole lot else. I think I have to mention Zaire Williams. He's just another young guy that they've added to this team. He's a 6'9" shooting guard, and he shoots the three decently so far into his young career. He had a couple games against the Warriors in the playoffs where he had 14 and 11, um, and shot the ball pretty decently in both of those. His 11-point game, he was actually only 3 for 8, but he did hit two threes. His 14-point game, he was 4 of 8 from 3, which is good signs for him. And as this bigger shooting guard, um, he'd be kind of a good fit next to Ja and Desmond Bane if he could become a great defender too. Um, at that height and wingspan, I mean, you can only really hope that that's a focal point for them to work on, especially because it seems like he's mostly an offensive player. And so hopefully Dylan Brooks gets shipped out and Zaire can play a lot more minutes and in that spot. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. So Memphis, I don't think has gotten any better from last season, and I think they're still this young team that's going to be like trying their best in the regular season, and so they're going to be high 40s, low 50s wins, and Ja Morant might take a little bit more of a step, and I think they're going to be pushing for that like 2, 3, 4 seed, and I think they'll probably get it. And it's just a matter of health with them. Jaren Jackson is usually kind of banged up throughout the year, and Ja Morant plays so explosively that I think his body is just it's just a ticking time bomb when he might just jump and plant a little bit wrong and ankle could go or something. I really don't hope that happens. I want him to have a good long career. I mean, I hate seeing anyone go down, and especially these young guys when they're just really trying to make a name for themselves. But I think there's definitely moves to be made with this roster, and I don't think this is going to be the roster that they have going into the days after the trade deadline. I would almost bet that someone's going to be moved, and if not, more than one. And as long as they keep Jaren, Desmond, and JJJ, I think they're in a great spot to continue to build for several years to come. But yeah, thank you again for listening. Stay tuned for the next one. I took a good break yesterday and was feeling a lot better today. So I'm glad to be back. Yeah, like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next time. And have a good one. Bye.